All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So, today we're going to be talking about some changes we did not know we were getting with Echoes of Duviri. Echoes of Duviri, obviously, we're going to have WISP Prime and a few other things that are going to be coming out very soon here on the 27th. But in addition to that, we're also getting enhanced damage numbers, Overgaard changes for Warframes, which we partially knew those were coming. Then cold, impact, and puncture statuses are all getting changes, and the new Incarnate Acquisition stuff. We have some clarification on the new Incarnate Acquisition stuff, but not anything that's like insanely new information, but it is some good news. So, starting with the enhanced damage numbers. So, the way that this is, I mean, it's a little confusing to say enhanced damage numbers because it doesn't just mean that they're higher. This is a way to show damage numbers to be much more clear. Basically, they're making changes around making it more obvious what you are doing, and also making it so that numbers that are probably the more relevant ones are going to be sticking to the screen for longer. So, for example, if you get like a red crit for 3 million damage, that red crit can't be replaced by like a tick from a slash proc. Like that red proc is going to get to stay on the screen for its intended length of time and not be replaced by the limited number of damage numbers that are allowed to be on the screen at one time. So basically, it's just going to make it so you can actually see those big damages whenever you do them, which is just a feel-good thing. That's just like purely for feel. But it is nice to know whenever you get that big damage, it does not immediately get evaporated by like doing lots of tiny tick damage if you're like Saren or something like that. In addition to that, melee damage, as you can see here in Pablo's video, which goes more into depth than this than I'm going to. On melee, you often will just like melee a guy and then be right past them immediately. This is going to make it so that melee damage numbers follow you a little bit, so you can see even if you're running past a guy or spin attacking through a guy you just murdered, you'll be able to see the damage numbers that you're actually getting with that. So that is good. Makes it easier to tell what your melee weapons are doing in terms of damage, especially as you move very quickly through a tile. So that is very good. And in addition to that, we are getting ability damage as a separate color. So in Pablo's video, it is like a bluish purple, you can see here, and that's very useful. The main thing that's going to be nice for this is knowing what should be considered an ability and what should not be considered an ability, because stuff like there's some weird edge cases where it's kind of a middle ground. Like, say, for example, for Mesa's Peacemakers. Mesa's 4 equips her Peacemakers, which are secondary weapons that are affected by secondary arcanes and mods and all that stuff. So those should have regular damage numbers because the ability is simply to equip them. And there are some places where it's even more like granular and interesting, like what we're going to get in terms of how the UI is going to handle it, like Korra's Whip Claw, where that is like melee that is affected by a lot of melee stuff, but it is also an ability. So it'll be interesting to see like how that breaks things up and how that gives us more information whenever we get all this stuff in the UI. And that stuff's all very cool. In addition to that, you can change like damage numbers showing at all, and whether they like show large or whatever you need for your UI needs. So just like better UI customization stuff, which is always appreciated. Overall, it seems like this is just going to be better. Like, it's just going to be a better way to show damage, and it'll just be more clear for everyone involved. So, seems good. And if you don't like it, they're keeping the old one in still as, like, the legacy option. So, nothing will change if you don't want it to, but it seems like a nice thing. Other stuff, we are looking at the player Overgaard improvement. So, consistent proc immunity. Due to the variety of sources of Overgaard, there were occasionally inconsistencies in how it behaved regarding proc immunity. With Echoes of Duviri, all sources of player Overgaard will offer full proc immunity while active. This is incredibly helpful, specifically for Kullervo, of course, but just making this a blanket. If a player has Overgaard, they're immune to status. That's really good. That's just good across the board. In addition to that, we have Overgaard depletion protection. So this is basically, it's shield gate. It's Overgaard gate. That's like literally what it is. You get a brief moment of invulnerability, which is half a second once depleted. This window will prevent players with Overgaard from being one-shot, as damage to Overgaard will no longer carry over into your health or shields once the pool depletes. And then they're going to be monitoring this as it goes. Also, as a special note, this does not mean enemies are getting this. Enemies aren't getting that. That would be stupid. Also, there's a small change for hit impact visuals. You don't flinch whenever you get shot if you have Overgaard. It's like having super armor, which is just a visual thing, but it's fun and nice. And so, yeah, the good immunity on Overgaard, and we are getting the change that we knew was happening, which is the Overgaard gate that we are going to be getting, which will make it more similar to shields. But it's basically shields with no damage reduction, but it's completely proc immune. So it's kind of a kind of it's a weird thing. I still think it's odd that Overgaard can't get defenses applied to it. But if the numbers for Overgaard are just generally much higher, like with Rhino's Iron Skin and such, it really nets out to be kind of the same deal. Status changes. So these are, I will say this, these are all moving in the right direction. These are all moving in the right direction. Do I think that they are enough? The answer is probably not. But are they all better? Yes, absolutely. So, with the variety of status effects, Warframe, certain types may be seen as less favorable than others. Cold Puncture and Impact tend to have a lesser impact on the battlefield, so we felt it was time to revisit the value they added to the player kits, which is absolutely a correct evaluation. These are the 3 worst damage types in the game, and it's not close. But they did the thing that I've been saying for a long time, which is the best way to make a damage type good is to make the damage type do more damage. So Puncture is getting some changes that honestly don't really matter on the top end here, which is basically making it so that it goes from 10 stacks to 5 stacks, and you get that full effectiveness at 5 stacks, and also the full effectiveness is going from 75 to 80%. The weakening status really doesn't matter, making the enemy do 80% less damage. Yes, that means there is 1/5 of the damage coming to you, but like spreading Puncture status is not like, it's not really a thing, and like to have the status immune enemies and so on and so forth. Maybe someday there will be a Warframe where this part of Puncture will be beneficial, but right now it just doesn't exist. And then for the weakened status effect additions, which is the important part, increased critical chance threshold on enemy by 5% per stack to a maximum of 25% at 5 stacks. So this is additive after mods, not before. Does not apply to abilities or AoE damage. So what this means is that there is a static 25% chance to crit that Puncture will be giving you when you get stacks. That is actually quite good, especially at lower levels. You can make it so that crits are way, way more consistent, because those early weapons, you will be getting, you know, if you added in Point Strike or whatnot, you'd go from your maybe 8% crit up to like 18% crit. And then that's still not really great. But if your weapon is getting a few punctures on there, you get 25% more, which is more than doubling the amount of chance that you have to crit, which is going to make your damage much more consistent and better, especially at lower levels. At higher levels, if your weapon just happens to have puncture, or if you're using something like Encumber, this is just a raw 25% more crit on the weapon that you're using if you're stacking a bunch of statuses on them and you have IPS on your weapon. So that's just purely good. 25% more chance to crit is very solid. It's going to push a lot of weapons to be way more often on that 100% crit area, so that is quite strong. The one place that you wouldn't want this is on a weapon that is trying actively not to crit all the time, where that would be like the Latum, or a lot of those like first wave Incarnans. Anyway, moving on. Impact stuff. Impact also reduced from 10 to 5. Increased the mercy threshold from 4 to 8, though. So everything basically just stays the exact same here, except for you need to proc impact less to get more of the effect. So that's good. Just a general buff. And then otherwise, we are getting some cold changes. Yeah, this is like fine, though. I do think that impact will still need a little bit more, because this one's just not getting more damage. But the mercy threshold, it will at the very least be very useful for new players. Anyway, cold changes. Increase the maximum amount of stacks from 8 to 9, which is just kind of odd and funny. Increase the additional per stack slow from 3.5 to 3.5 to 5. And then increase the maximum slow effect from 75% to 90%. So making a 90% slow on cold after 9 stacks is like, okay. It's like fine. I don't think that there's going to be much use case for that. Maybe it would be useful on liches if they're affected by this, perhaps. Maybe for newer players. Maybe. But much more importantly, the free status effect addition, which is increase the critical damage taken by an enemy by 10% on initial status effect. Subsequent stacks increase this buff by 5% up to a maximum of 50%. This is additive after mods, not before. So 50% additional critical damage. I've said this a lot, but critical damage is basically the hardest stat in Warframe to get more of. And there are a lot of cases where this is a huge, huge increase to damage. Take into account kind of your regular weapon. you're going to have Vital Sense on if it's a crit weapon, of course. So let's say it starts at like a 2x multiplier, and for sake of argument, let's just consider Vital Sense to be plus 100%. I know it's 120. The numbers are very slightly lower than this, but not in a way that's like not still meaningful. So you have your Vital Sense on, which is plus 100%, right? And then you're getting your 3x multiplier on your critical damage. If you then get this 50% critical damage taken, well, I guess it's a little unclear. This is additive after mods, not before. So this actually could be 50% more of what your final is with the way that this is written. And in that case, it's actually even stronger than I originally surmised. Because if this is 50% of what your final crit would be, then this is like an insane increase to damage. Like if you go from 2x to 3x, let's say, and then you get 50% more, you're getting 1.5x, which means it would actually be way stronger than the Vital Sense would be in your build. Although it would be stronger because of Vital Sense. We'll actually have to see how this maths out. But the thing that I will say is either way that this maths out, it's going to be really good with the consideration that you are using a critical weapon. Will it be better than heat? No. Almost certainly not. There may be some cases where this would be better than heat, but in all likelihood, this will simply just not be better than heat in pretty much any situation, because heat stacking damage is just so useful for so many things, and also, of course, the armor strip and so on and so forth. Will this be competitive enough with heat where if freeze, or if cold rather, is on your weapon and you would combine heat to get blast, like viral blast, that you would not instead just stick with the cold damage? No. I think sticking with the cold damage on a lot of weapons that have it inherently, or can like get it as an additional, like if you had like a Kuva weapon that you went with cold for whatever reason, this would mean that that's not exactly a bad idea. Like the difference between heat and cold considerably lessens with this change, as long as you're using a crit weapon, which is very, very good. So yeah, this is like definitely the right direction. I think puncture and freeze get a lot stronger this way. Impact is like more convenient, but mostly it's a new player thing still. But yeah, overall, very good stuff. Cold damage is notably also good for new players. So this will also help them. If you're using like puncture cold weapons as a new player, you're probably going to be pretty happy with it. Moving on, we have Newincarnate Acquisition. So DE has done a very smart thing. They have changed how the rotation is in the middle. Instead of tacking on the new incarnates to the end, they are now going to be week 2. And the reason they're going to be week 2 is because this week, currently, what we're in right now is the Bratton, the Lotto, the Skana, the Paris, and the Kunai. That is what we're currently going for. In order to give us quick access to the new incarnates, they are now week 2. Plain and simple, easy fix. Don't have to do any like weirdness where like, oh, it's week 7, but it's happening during week 2. No, it's just the new week 2, so you guys get it immediately. It doesn't really matter what order these occur in, so just shoving it into the middle so that we can get it quickly is great. In addition to that, Cavallero is going to be offering these new incarnates only for platinum. Like he's only offering these 5 right here: the Boar, the Gamma Core, the Angstrom, the Gorgon, and the Anka are the only 5 that he's going to have. He's not going to have the rest of them, but you'll be able to buy these during any week if you want to for platinum. I've talked about this before, but like DE should monetize the game. Like they're going so far as to like just shove this, like they could absolutely shove this on week 7 and I still really would be like, yeah, okay, makes sense to me. There's probably something that means they, couldn't do it in the middle. But because they did do it in the middle, it's like, great. Very quickly, people are going to get access to 2 out of the 5 of these, whatever 2 they most want. And then after that, you'll have to wait some weeks and they'll come back. I really don't think that them offering them for purchase is a problem because, I mean, they have to make money at some point. We've gone so many updates with them putting like basically no like purchase incentive in at all. So it's a free-to-play game. You've got to be able to buy something. Do I think a lot of players are going to buy these 5? I think a lot of players might buy 3 of them. Maybe like just like, hey, I'm impatient. I got the Gamma Core and the Boar, and I want the Angstrom, the Gorgon, and the Anku right now. Well, we'll pay some platinum. If you can't wait a couple weeks for it to come around and grab 2 more of them, whatever. I think that the vast majority of players, even whenever you're looking at like the regular week rotation, aren't even grabbing 2 of these a week from circuit rewards because like they're just not like they just don't even care that much, or like a lot of players don't even have, you know, that much access to Steel Path or even really know about these. And like all the players that aren't even at Cavalero, they put it at Cavalero, which is very smart, so it's not going to confuse anyone who's not there yet. Yeah, I mean I have no problem with them monetizing this. I think it's a smart thing to do. And they're still earnable just like all the rest of these are. So yeah, I have a tough time. I have a very tough time disliking this. I will say, the one thing that would put a really sour taste on this though is whenever you do buy them, you get all of the materials. So like whatever, like the Drac root or so on and so forth, in order to install them immediately. If the resources to put these onto their relevant weapons are like weirdly way fucking higher, that will put a sour taste in my mouth. Like if we suddenly are looking at, instead of 60 Drac root, you need 600 Drac root, that's a fucking feel bad. I don't think that's going to happen though. I think the exact same scheme with the way that they use the resources right now for every other weapon is probably just going to be patterned across these 5. I don't expect that to happen, but it is a consideration that I am making, that some weirdness like that could occur, but I also don't think DE would do that. But yeah, that's what's going on here. In addition to that, the WISP Prime trailer is out. I'm not going to play that here. It just came out. Go check it out on the Play Warframe channel. It's a cool trailer. It's like an interesting, like just kind of like wispy cinematic thing. Well, I guess it is wispy. It's WISP. So yeah, that's coming out soon. We're going to be playing that a bunch on stream. But today, if you guys are interested, we are going to be doing a Remnant 2 on stream, which is apparently really good. Everything I've heard about it has been really good. I got a code for it from the devs, so we're out here playing it. Should be a good time. Check that out over on twitch.tv/Brozime, and I will hopefully see you there. All right. Hello, everyone. It's been month 2 of the Streamathon, but more YouTube videos are on the way. And for that, thanks especially to all of the patrons that are supporting the channel: Alex Barnum, Angel SPM, Arbiter Daydream, Denuvin, Brutus Salazar, Dylan Dworsky, Ethrain, Hafan, IQ is Thick, James Harsthorn, Jorn for Science, Jesse Richens, John Lobdill, Joshua Adams, Luzanth, Alec X. Williams, Minty Ginja, Mitchta, Vermoxidate, Rena Valentine, Tamtine Wastelander, The Coupon of Death, Waifu Wars, Zach Zaner, and Zerafir, and of course, all of the $5 patrons and the $2 patrons as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for the support. It has been incredible. There are so many of you now. And yeah, expect a lot more videos and stuff after the Streamathon is over. We're going to get way back into the free-to-play through and the huge guides that I've been trying to write for the site and everything. So expect a lot of that to be going on in the near future.